Do you feel like soft sourdough dinner rolls are something that only experienced bakers can pull off? With these step-by-step instructions, you'll be pulling warm, bakery-worthy rolls from the oven like you've been baking for years. One of the biggest secrets to making any type of amazing homemade sourdough bread really boils down to a strong and active sourdough starter. The good news is, making and maintaining your starter is so much easier than it seems, especially with my easy sourdough starter recipe. So to begin making these soft and chewy sourdough cloverleaf rolls, add the active starter to a bowl along with the granulated sugar and the warm water. One of the most common questions I'm asked is, do the ingredients have to be weighed? Technically no, but because flour absorbs moisture differently based on climate and brand, measuring by cups can lead to really inconsistent results. However, weighing the ingredients is one surefire way to achieve the soft, pull-apart goodness that makes these rolls so fun. Once you've stirred together the starter with the sugar and water, add in the flour and salt, and stir until mostly incorporated. At this point, add in the oil, but here's a question for you. Can you spot the mistake I made? When I was filming these rolls, I was very tired. Because of this, I used far too little water. Luckily, I was clear-headed enough to figure out how much more water was needed. I really wanted to show this mistake as reassurance for anyone who's new to sourdough baking. As long as you have a healthy, active starter and you weigh the ingredients, sourdough is very forgiving. You can see that once I added the correct amount of water, the dough has a very wet and shaggy consistency. If you're used to making yeasted bread, this will feel very odd, but I want to reassure you that you're on the right path. Once you have mixed everything together, cover the bowl and let it rest at room temperature for 45 minutes. In a nutshell, letting the dough rest for the 45 minutes gives the flour time to absorb the water, helps the gluten relax and strengthen, and makes the dough smoother, stretchier, and easier to work with. You will then begin the process of stretch and fold with a 30-minute rest, repeated for a total of 4 times. There are some pretty significant benefits to using the stretch and fold technique rather than kneading. For one, it is so much easier to do the stretch and fold approach. In addition, it strengthens the dough while developing the gluten without risking overworking the dough that can happen with kneading. Okay, to do the stretch and fold, gently pinch one side of the dough, stretch it upwards, and then fold it into the center of the bowl. Repeat this around the perimeter of the bowl for approximately 1 minute. You'll see that after the series of stretch, fold, and rest that the dough becomes stronger, smoother, and more elastic. It's at this point that you will do the first fermentation, also known as the bulk rise. This will take approximately 4 hours at room temperature or 12 hours in the refrigerator. A couple of things to keep in mind: colder winter weather will slow down the fermentation, and a longer fermentation does lend to stronger sourdough flavor. Either approach is completely fine and should be based on personal preference. Also, if you choose to do the first fermentation in the refrigerator, you will need to allow the dough to come to room temperature before shaping, which will add on a few additional hours. For the second fermentation, also known as the final proofing, first grease the muffin pans. Turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface. At this point, you will want to tighten up the dough by folding it over onto itself about 5 to 6 times. This will build structure and make it easier to work with. Using a bench scraper, cut the dough into smaller pieces. For evenly sized rolls, weigh each piece to be about 23 to 26 grams. You will need 3 pieces to make 1 roll. To shape each piece into a ball, lightly dust it with flour. Fold the edges towards the center, creating a smooth and taut surface on the top. Finally, pinch and twist the bottom to seal each ball. Once you've shaped all the rolls, cover the pan and let the rolls proof at room temperature until they have expanded and filled in the gaps within the muffin cups. This will take approximately 2 hours. Before baking, make sure to preheat your oven for about 30 minutes because a hot oven helps the dough to rise quickly, creating light, airy rolls. Bake until golden brown, and for an extra touch of richness, add a dab of butter on top of each roll while they are still hot. For more recipes like this and for weekly inspiration, make sure to head on over to thefedupfoodie.com and sign up for my newsletter where I share recipes and tips in helping to make cooking from scratch approachable.